Hello, everyone, and welcome to the podcast Magic is Real. I'm Shannon. I'm your host. I'm a psychic medium, and this is the podcast where we talk about all things metaphysical and spiritual with a focus on spiritually transformative experiences, such as near death experiences and out of body experiences, spiritual healing, and so much more. Today, I have with me the lovely Stephanie Banks. Thank you so much for joining me and my audience, Stephanie. Stephanie is an intuitive channel, and as all of my guests are, she's a very interesting person with an interesting backstory that I would love for her to share with you. And then we're going to get into a lot of topics that we're just going to let it flow. But there is a really interesting story about how she came to be a channel and how you can learn to channel, because that's something that I think a lot of people don't know. I, too, am a trained medium and I have so many questions up my sleeves. So, Stephanie, thank you for being open, for being present, and for joining me. It's just lovely to have you in my presence.
Thank you, Shannon. I'm really happy to be here and I'm looking forward to the meandering we shall do today.
I am too. I wanted to start with just tell me about yourself, what your background is, because you didn't come, I don't want to say come into your gifts, but your pursuit of this ability, I think, came later, which I'll have you tell the story of your mother. But before this happened, how did you grow up? Were you spiritual? Were you not spiritual? What's your background?
Hmm. Well, I would say that I was always very, very deeply connected to the natural world, probably more so than maybe what you'd consider average. But I thought it was normal because I didn't know any differently. I would talk to the trees, I would hear them communicate with me. I would talk to the neighborhood cats. I would know when they were hungry. I had very high empathic abilities. So the nature and animals and natural realms were always very a place where I felt very at home and where was exchanging a lot of communication. But yes, you're right. In terms of my spiritual development and my channeling, which opened up as a place of need, actually, I learned to channel out of necessity. My mother had a type of dementia that affected younger people. Her symptoms started probably in her late 40s. And I was a clinician by training. I was a speech language pathologist and thought, oh, this will be no problem. I can figure out how to communicate with my mom because I have all this training in how to communicate with people who have difficulties in this way. But not so. It's different when it's your mother, right? There's a lot of complexities to that relationship. Lucky for me, though, at the time I had a best friend who was a very gifted channeler. And I had seen her channel other souls that were on the planet. And so I asked her if she would channel my mom for me so I could understand what my mother needed from me, what our souls were here to do together, how I was meant to be in service, where I was going down, where I was delivering well, where I wasn't. And that's how our relationship completely changed from something that was mostly frustrating and for both of us and overwhelming to something that was nourishing and joyful and playful and really, really light. My mom's soul was able to communicate through my friend how we could move through this with greater ease and what she actually needed from me and how what our agreements were basically on a soul level.
That's beautiful. A lot of people may not know, although people who watch this podcast may know, that we can communicate with each other, one another, telepathically. So someone doesn't need to be on the other side for us to communicate with their soul. Well, I think we all know that, but I don't know that a lot of people know that mediums, channelers do that kind of work. That if someone's in a
Mhm.
coma, for example, I can't say that I'm sure I'm capable of doing it. I haven't done it. That you're talking about a woman who's alive, and
Yeah.
yet you described it really well. My aunt had dementia, also not Alzheimer's, but dementia, which there is a difference. But the way you described it, I know a lot of people sort of know what it is, but can you say it the way that you did, where the pieces of the brain sort of
Yeah.
fall? You said it in a very sort
Yeah.
of everyday way that was easy to understand.
Yeah, so this is not the clinical definition of
Yes.
dementia because that's not what you're asking for. But basically, it's an interruption in the pathways of the brain. So the pathways of the brain that allow for us to get messages through clearly, allow for us to understand input and information, they start to break apart. There are plaques, if we want to get a little bit clinical, there's synapses, there's basically electrical currents that normally happen in the brain. And with dementia, these pathways start to fray, they start to break apart, they start to disconnect or get clogged. You can think of it like that. Depending on the type of dementia, your symptoms could be very different, but essentially that's what's going on inside the brain. So we really need to find ways to transcend traditional communication if we want to stay deeply connected to our loved ones. With dementia, we can't always just offer another brain pathway like we could, like when I would work with people who had traumatic brain injury. I could see what area of the brain was damaged, and I could say, oh, great, we have other pathways we can use. We can route it this way or that way. But in dementia, it's a little bit more complex than
Right.
that. So, this is where soul communication comes in so beautifully because a soul is a soul, whether they're living in their body here, whether they're on the other side, whether they've not incarnated for a very long time, still an essence that, of course, we can tune into. And
Yeah.
what I do is not unique to is not unique. We can all do it if you're willing to learn, if you're willing to practice, if you're willing to put in the hours to understand how to clear oneself, how to create your own vibrational frequency that is a match for what you're wishing to channel. And that's the work, really. It's internal work, I believe. I don't believe that only if select few are designated for this work. I believe it's something that if you're willing to devote the time, you can learn how to do this, how to connect on a soul level.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. So what started happening when your friend was channeling your mother's soul? What kinds of things was she sharing with you? And then when you began to learn, what kinds of things was she sharing with you?
Yeah. Well, initially, I was really curious about was this part of our original soul agreement? Like, did she know, did my mom know that this was something she was going to
Yeah.
come forward with? And to be honest, I don't remember her exact response to that, but the understanding that I gained from having her channeled was that I was here to walk with her, not ahead of her, which is where I had been walking, right? I was trying to predict and anticipate her needs, and I was trying to be the voice for her, and I was trying to advocate in ways that she did not necessarily need me to. And one of the things that she shared with me that was very eye-opening was that in my attempt to, I would say, protect my father's emotional space, because with her type of dementia, it was very tricky. Her personality would go like the mood swings were very severe, and her personality was changing enormously and unpredictably. So I was trying to take care of my dad, and she said, stay in your own lane. This is
Yeah.
my relationship with your
Mm.
father. We have an agreement. We have an agreement that he is showing up for me in massive ways in this lifetime. And by you taking over or taking control or trying to smooth out the edges, you are actually interfering in something that's very sacred between the two of us. So she used different words,
Yeah.
but that was the gist of it. And then I was able to put that down and really let them have what's theirs really to have and focus only exclusively on what the dynamic was between me and my mom. She also asked me for specific things. She asked me, please, will you stop trying to like bring me out of my whatever realm I'm in, if I look like I'm spacing out to you, you just don't know where I am. I'm actually sometimes having a great time, having a conversation, visiting other loved ones, other realms, having other experiences, and you keep jarring me back into your moments. And she didn't always appreciate that. And I can really understand that, right? If you're somewhere else and you're having a wonderful daydream or a wonderful thought or a wonderful memory or experience, and then someone's like, hey, mom, do you like the food? Do you want what
Yeah.
did you think about what so and so just said? It's like, what? That's really hard to reorient to and very jarring for someone who's having a hard time with their focus and also somewhere else, going somewhere else. So that was very eye-opening for me as well.
Yeah, they do say that with dementia, Alzheimer's patients, you really want to argue, not that you would argue, but you really trying to correct them is not the way. You kind of have to go along with them and just affirm and know and let them know that you're listening, right? Like,
Yeah.
like, okay, yeah, listen to them and let them speak because it's only going to agitate them if you're arguing with them about no, that didn't happen. No, dad's dead. No, it's
Right,
very
right.
upsetting and distressing for them.
Of course, of course. Yeah, meet them where they are. And oftentimes where they are is a lot more fun.
Yes. In fact, when my aunt had dementia, she was put well, she had to go to a psych ward one or two times, I think, she where she was getting agitated and violent. But the way my mom said it, she said she was actually mostly very happy. She said
Mhm.
she only remembered three people: me, your father, and Johnny Cash. And she was living she was singing and clapping and having a great time when she didn't think that she was being stolen from or
Mhm.
things like that, but she really, for the most part, she thought she was having an affair with the cafeteria worker guy, and he was 45 years younger than she was because she was like 85. And she thought that his parent she'd already discussed the whole thing, and she was happy with her relationship. She didn't know she was 100 years old. So it to some degree there is agitation, and also, like you said, we don't want to try to bring them back for our sake if that's not serving them. When you began to learn how to channel, and I would actually love to learn more about that, how what kinds of I've studied mediumship, I know what that entails.
Mhm.
What is the difference between channeling, for example, and I know that you also channel in a different kind of a way than I'm bringing through your loved ones on the other side, right? Because you also channel entities, spirits, animals, all types of things. What's sort of the difference between them? Or is there a difference?
I don't think there's a
Yeah.
difference.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think there's a difference. I used to get really stuck on how do I define this versus that? How do I define channeling and how does mediumship, where do they overlap? But the truth is that it's all spirit. So I'm not sure why we're trying so hard to separate it out into
Yeah.
there's this compartment and you need certain people to do it this way. And then there's this whole umbrella and only certain people can do this way. It's spirit. It falls under the same category, under the same umbrella. It's love, it's beauty. When I channel, I'm channeling from fifth dimensional consciousness. So perhaps that's something to
Mm-hmm.
designate. That's unity consciousness. So it's highest loving vibrational frequency. If you wish, you can channel from lower frequencies. I don't recommend it. It's not something I do, but you can,
Mm-hmm.
you can learn to channel or attune to or receive messages from or communicate with whomever you wish. If you're willing to do the inner work to get out of the way, to clear yourself and to create a vibrational match for what you're wanting to channel.
And what are some of the ways in which we do that? How do we clear that space?
Yeah, well, I don't know how we do, but I know how I do.
Yeah. Yeah.
I get most of my clearing in nature. I mean, that's always where I am doing some of my best releasing. Grounding, earthing, centering. Mother Nature, I find, is the quickest conduit to drain any energy that does not serve me and then to allow me to draw up from Mother Earth herself all this beautiful, loving, vibrant energy. I also meditate. I think that's essential. And I'm not a great meditator. So, for those of you out there who think you have to be a good meditator to channel, you don't. You just have to keep showing up to it because just that little teeny space between your thoughts is successful meditation. You don't have to have minutes or hours of space between your thoughts. A lot happens in that space. Sometimes it feels like I took a really replenishing nap when I've just only had a few seconds of distance between one thought and another. That's how clarifying it is in if you practice meditation. Chanting is a beautiful thing to do. I love chanting. I use mala beads with mantras. That is how I also bring about a clarity of mind. I will get into a state of deep listening where I'm just silent and breathing in and out through my heart. I use a heart math technique called the quick coherence technique, where I'm bringing the brain and the heart into coherent waves so that no energy is lost and we get to work in harmony in that way. Lots and lots of, oh, dark chocolate. That is definitely
Yeah.
how I calibrate good frequency.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
Yeah, and here's a question that I get asked a lot, and everyone's answer is different. So I'd love to hear yours. How do you know when it's spirit versus your own thought? So
Mhm.
when I said I've never tried a reading with a person who's in a coma or has dementia, for
Mhm.
example, only because for me, what I love about evidential mediumship for myself is that I get immediate validation that what I'm saying is true, or animal
Mhm.
communication. I'm sure
Mhm.
I communicate with animals. I'm very involved with animal care, dogs and cats, and so I do, tune into them, but I don't know if I made it up. I don't, how am I going to know for sure? Obviously, you would know if the person said, actually, that dog really does love to do that very
Yeah.
specific thing. But when it comes to channeling, say, entities, or if I say, hey, Ra or whatever entity, what's coming? What do we need to know as humanity? Well, I'm not going to know if that came from my imagination or not.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
how do you know?
Well, you know what I say is that everything is coming through the imagination.
Hmm.
Everything, everything, everything. So I know we have a culture that has taught us to believe or to disbelieve and to discount the imagination. But if you look around your home, every single item in there came through the imagination first before it was created. Same thing with what we are doing here. We're making this up all the time. Our lives, our ideas, our podcasts, our books, our shows, our writings. This is the most powerful place that humans have been gifted is the imagination. So I am teaching people to utilize their imagination in their channeling. And sometimes when people say, like you said, but I'm afraid I'm making this up. What if I'm making this up? We just flip it and we say, if I were to make this up, this is what I would say,
Yeah,
right? It's a workaround. It helps us get out of our own way because if I shut down my imagination, I cannot channel. I can't see the
I know.
imagery. I can't make the connection. I can't feel the whooshes on my skin of that beautiful point where me and spirit are one.
Yeah.
So yeah, we got to redefine and reimagine how the imagination is actually an integral part of any sort of channeling or mediumship or any of that. It belongs, it's utilized, it's a key component.
Right. How do you personally use your channeling abilities? I'm sure there are many ways, but let's start with how do you use them to serve others as a practitioner, I would say, if that's the right word. And yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah.
question, I think. Yeah.
Well, most of my sessions are people asking questions about their relationships. So, a lot of times I might channel somebody's spouse or partner or supervisor or child, and their question is, how can I serve them better? How can, or why are we having so many challenges? Or what can be done in order to create more connection instead of this dissonance that we have? So when you change a relationship, like what I experienced with my mother, there is a ripple effect everywhere everywhere. So it wasn't just that my relationship with my mom changed in some sort of a bubble. I became a better mother by understanding her in a deeper way. So my children benefited from my relationship with my mother shifting through the channeling of her soul. I became a better wife. I became a better daughter. I became a better steward of the planet because when you open up to the vastness of what our souls really are and what they're up to and what they're all about, then you can't not see yourself as a miracle and as part of a grander landscape with deeper purpose and deeper meaning. So that's how my work has touched on a personal level. I also work with a lot of founders of charities and people who are saving the planet. I can say that because
Because
they
they
really
are,
are.
yeah.
And no matter if I'm channeling for them personal questions that relate to their family and friends in life, or if I'm channeling things related to their professions, sometimes I have had CEOs who say, I'm considering hiring this person as a close partner in my work, and I'd like to hear from their soul. Is this a good match? What's the vibe like? And we get a lot of really beautiful information from that, and they can make a more informed decision around that. So it's endless, I guess is what I would want to um, illuminate here is the channeling changes us. Mediumship, see, I'm calling it all the same thing. It changes us because it gives us an added depth that we have not been taught before.
Right. And some may ask, well, how can you channel someone else's soul without their permission? Is it you ask for their higher self and or their guides or your guide or the other person's guides to come together?
Mhm. Yeah, I don't do anything without permission of the soul. If the
Yeah.
soul doesn't want to come through, they don't come through.
Hmm.
And when that happens, which is very, very rare, but when it does, I totally respect that. And I will be given a spirit guide on their behalf. So we'll still get the information we need, even if that particular soul is like, no, thank you. This isn't how I want to come through right now. We will still get what we need from communication from spirit. Um, do you need permission from the human personality? No,
Right. Yeah.
no, I don't. That's not how I work. Since this is not well understood, and since a lot of fear has been driven towards this entire field of spirit in general, spirit communication specifically, we've been taught to be afraid of it. So if we went according to, well, only channel if the person says that it's okay, and they don't even understand that it's only love that's coming through, and they
Right.
don't understand that there's nothing exploitative that is going to be, that's going to be revealed about them, then how could they knowingly give permission or not, really truly not understanding what this is? So I go to the soul for permission, and it's most of the time granted.
Because it's the whole intention is for it to be in everyone's highest and best good.
Of
You're
course.
trying to promote healing and peace, and what soul wouldn't want that? So even if the human stubbornness is like, I'm not going to give that to you, that's
Yeah.
ego.
Yes.
What soul is not gonna say, I want healing. Yeah, I want us to
Yes.
be better. I want to show up for each other better. So that makes perfect sense to me as well. Now you also channel different entities. So one of the questions I have is, when you go to channel, do you have a particular spirit type, I don't know, entity, is that what we call it, in mind to connect with? And I'm sure a lot of the time, yes, right? A lot of the time it might be animal, tell me what you need.
Mm.
Child, baby, what can I do to, I'm a nanny, so I, a nanny for a baby. And obviously we rely on physical cues, but also how helpful to be able to tap in and be like, what's hurting you? Are you okay? Like, what can I do to
Mm.
make it better? But also when you're channeling, for example, extraterrestrial beings, do you ever go into your meditation or whatever and just say whoever wants to talk talk, or is
Mm.
it always specific to, hey, I'm intending to channel this particular entity or something?
Yeah, it's by request. So
Yeah.
I rely on my clients to tell me what what and who they want to
Okay.
channel. And if they don't know, then they'll tell me kind of what's running in the background. This is where I'm having challenge. This is what I would like clarity around. And then I'm listening behind their words, and their guidance team is saying, excuse me, this is higher self, or this is great Aunt Trudy, or this is, whoever wishes to come through their spirit team, for example. And then I'll tell them, okay, well, here's, let's tune into your higher self for that, or let's go to your partner for that. I feel their presence here and they would like to share something that will be useful to you. In terms of entities, I don't do very much of that.
Mm-hmm.
I do have some clients that are very, very advanced in their galactic and spiritual understanding and journeys far beyond where I am,
Yeah.
but this is never based on what I know. So if they say this is an entity that I want to tune into, great, I'm willing to do it. I'm staying in the loving fifth dimensional frequency, so it's all good for me. Whatever wishes to come through is fine. But I don't just open it to global messages, because for me, what I have found is when I say, or when a client says, just bring in whatever or whoever is here, the message tends to be more global. And I feel dissatisfied with that. And it's
Yeah.
not about me, but you know what? I always tell my clients, I trust that your heart knows what will be the most helpful and useful thing for you to ask about or to hear from. So
Mm-hmm.
check in with your heart for a moment and let's see what comes up.
Yeah. What do you think? What's the thing that you hear the most when you're channeling? What message comes through the strongest, the loudest, the most frequently?
Well, it sort of depends. If I'm channeling a living teenager, it's back up. Give me room, give me space, and here's how I need it. Just kind of like how they are in personality, right?
Yeah.
That we know that's what they need, and yet we still kind of encroach on their through our fear and our desire to protect them. But it varies so much because it truly is up to that individual soul to share what their particular need is at the time. When I'm channeling messages from Gaia, from Mother Earth, what she tends to impart is inviting us to, in the process of coming home to our own nature, inviting us to recognize the smallest among us. So she'll direct us to the beetles and the worms and the bees and the butterflies and the teeny tiny things that we would otherwise not even pay attention to. That brings us into a state of awe and miracle and curiosity. And then we want to know more about different beings and species. And that brings us back into connection with life itself on this planet, which is what we need to awaken to if we want to have a healthy, thriving planet.
Mm-hmm. Uh, that's really, yeah. That's something that's a huge. I mean, obviously, our very survival depends on how we take care of the planet, and I would love to hear your take too on what is this planet. I know that's such a broad question, um, but I'd love to know if you have any thoughts on that. What you have learned about what is this? What is this planet? How? Why are we here? And it's so complex, I know. So I really am sort of just asking a question for you to kind of riff on whatever it means to you or what you've found or what you've
Mm,
discovered from connecting with, because I believe we're all one big blob of energy, right? And
mhm.
so the earth is in a sense an extension of us or part of us, or but I would love to know your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I feel this vast interconnection with all of life. I do not actually believe that humans are at the top of any hierarchy. Never, ever, ever have I believed that. I think that's faulty storytelling,
Yeah.
actually, and has led us to this very dire situation of greed and destruction that we find ourselves in right now. So I do view Pachamama, Mother Earth, as a mother. She's the giver of life. That's the definition of a mother. And I view her as the universal mother. And since we chose as souls to be here, I believe that we did, and to have these bodies and this physical, three-dimensional experience, we have a responsibility, I believe, to serve as often as possible. And serving the earth is, for me, one of the most powerful and purposeful and meaningful things that we can do. And there are 100,000 ways to do it. We do it through our purchases, being very mindful. Do you know who made your clothes? Do you know who made that chocolate? Do you know where it came from? What was destroyed in order to extract it? What about the vehicles that you're driving? What about the food on your plate, right? There's so many things that we can ask, not to overwhelm ourselves and make us feel guilty, but to become more connected to life. So why are we here? I feel to dial it into one reason, it's to learn to love more fully, more unconditionally, to get closer to agape, that perfect divine love. And that is what I believe Mother Earth offers us. She does not judge. She does not only grow some things for some people. The sun shines on everybody. The earth provides us absolutely everything that we need all the time. And it's really up to us to sort out how to share it, how to distribute it fairly, how to be in reciprocity, respect, all of that. That's our job. That's where we grow.
Mm-hmm. And you talked about how having this ability really made you, like you said, a better mother, a better spouse. Can you elaborate on that a little bit? And maybe even if you have some specifics in mind, I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah. Well, I think part of it was just realizing there's so much more to my mom than what I experienced of her. She
Yeah.
has a whole soul history that I did not even consider or think about, know about, have curiosity around before I came into this whole realm of channeling. And so, if that's true for my mom, wouldn't that also be true for my children? What are their souls actually up to? What's their soul history? Who have they been? Who are they here to be? What are they working out, working on, working through? Where am I a part of this? Where am I a hindrance to it? So it just opened up my mind to the expansiveness that we are as multidimensional beings and the fact that we have such a rich, so many rich journeys that we've been part of. And that's what allowed me to eventually learn to channel and to be able to receive these messages for me. Now, this is what I will say though. For most of the time that I have my mom channeled while she was living, I still had my best friend do it.
Yeah.
I would receive some, messaging from my mom, but if I really wanted to know the message was clear, reliable, and I could trust it, because I didn't yet trust myself as a channeler, I went through her because I knew that she was much more practiced, much more experienced. And guess what else? I'm kind of close to it. I have some stuff, right? I have expectations, I have disappointments, I have things that would get in the way of me just being a clear receiver. So when I teach people to channel, I usually tell them when you're starting to, let's say, work with your pendulum or something and establish yes and no responses, don't ask your pendulum something like, should I marry Charlie? You're not neutral, right? You got
Exactly.
lots of stuff around that.
Yeah.
But you can ask something like, does it serve my highest good and the highest good of all to remain in this relationship?
But no one wants to
Totally.
hear that. I didn't know the answer to that one.
Well, no one also wants to hear yes and then have a really horrible marriage,
Yes,
right?
that's true. Yeah. Yeah. But mostly when we're going
So
to the pendulum, we're like, does he love me? Yeah.
yes. Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
No,
Yeah.
but
And
that
I
makes
understand.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a great temptation to do that. So for the stuff that matters to you that you're really close to, have someone who has devoted their life work to this do it
Yeah.
for you.
I wondered about that. I meant I was thinking about that when you talked about your relationship with your mom because I know you were new to it at the time.
Hmm.
And I can certainly channel my own loved ones and have. However, it's not something that's been intentional because, well, sometimes because I don't. It's not impossible. In fact, it's not even not impossible. It's we do it all the time.
Yeah.
It's just that when it's our own loved one, we already know what they would say. we could
Yeah.
hear their voice in our minds. So I never know, is this a memory I'm making up, or I could imagine my I'm getting chills right now. I don't know from who, but it's like, because I'm thinking about my grandma. I'm
I
thinking
was just
about
say
the,
it's your grandma. You
I,
just said her name.
oh yeah, yeah, I
I
did.
think I think we know who it
I
is.
didn't even realize that I had said that because I was sort of in my thinking flow, but I felt her immediately as soon as I said that, I'm getting huge chills again. Hi, Grandma, because I, I want to connect with her, and yet it's like I have expectations, like you said, about
Sure.
things I want her to say to me, or, um, but it is really nice to go to a medium or a channeler, whatever word you want to put to it, because they can be objective. And
Mhm.
yesterday I went to a friend and asked her to do. She's a medium, and I said, "Can you do a tarot pull for me?" Because reading for myself, I mean, I do it all the time, but I can't. I'm biased.
Yes, of course we are. Of
I'm
course we
gonna
are.
let it say what I want it to say, not what I want. The objective. You need to tell me, and it was so helpful because it did reflect back what I already knew, and also surprised me in some ways that it was actually a little bit more of what I wanted to hear, but hadn't allowed myself to imagine was possible, or something of that
Mm.
nature. So I do want someone who is more objective to do it, right? So
Yes.
how are you
It's
going to know
like,
if it's,
yeah.
yeah,
You don't want to go to a dentist who isn't done with school, right? I mean,
exactly.
you want someone who's seasoned, who has had years of experience, who can really hold a neutral space and is not all up in your business. It's interesting, Shannon, because earlier you asked me, how do I know when I've reached the right being, or when the message is coming from the origin that I have intended? And then you just demonstrated it right now when you and
I
and
have,
yeah,
yes,
I meant to answer that, but then forgot. But then here it is again in the field. You know it because you feel it. That's how you know it.
yes.
Yeah.
I
And
have
and
said the
yeah.
same thing.
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
sometimes for some, like for me, also chills. That's my signal. Like when I'm getting ready for a session and I go through my process to center and ground and clear and open to what's here, I check in, I say, "Hey, are you guys here?" And we're really informal. And whoop,
Yeah,
like right
Matt,
now, all of
immediately.
them, all of them, all I can just feel myself surrounded. I have chills running. I wish I could show you. The hair is standing up on my arms. They're here, right?
Yeah.
That is my signal. For other people, it may be a different sensation, a different part of the body, a different feel, but that's how we know is by how it feels. The body will never lie. The body is an excellent instrument for detecting presence, both in the positive pole and in the negative pole. It's how you know when you're standing in the grocery line that the person in front of you needs a little more space because you can feel something not quite great coming off of them and you want to move back away from it. So I trust the body. I guide everybody back to the body.
And that is what we call intuition, which is
Hmm.
not a paranormal ability. It is literally our survival mechanism, and animals do it because they don't communicate with words. So they need to have that primal instinct to be able to sense danger, for example,
Hmm.
or even just where the water is. Those kinds of things that we actually,
Hmm.
we're animals too, but
Yeah.
we live in a society that has sort of indoctrinated us out of. That's a whole other thing. Just Native Americans had it right. They were living, in my opinion, the way that we are meant to be living, in tune with
Yes.
nature and their intuition. My friend who pulled tarot, Nikki Blair, is my friend who I had pulled cards. She's Native American, grew up on a reservation. She has been seeing spirits since childhood,
Yeah.
not because she's special. Well, she is, but she's a special person, as we all are. But because it was encouraged. It wasn't
Yeah.
discouraged. It was, oh yeah,
Right.
there's grandma. And
It's
so
normal.
it's
Hmm.
very normal. And so I've said the same, that my dad once said, well, how do you know you're not just reading someone psychically? I
Hmm.
said, and he's not, hasn't historically been a spiritual person. I said, well, isn't that cool if I am? But I'll tell you how I know, because I do pick up psychic stuff. And when I have a loved one with me, I feel them.
Hmm.
Not only do I feel tingles from head to toe, and not the whole time. So I don't want people to
Right.
think if you don't feel it that there's something wrong. It's
Right.
it's the initial contact made. It's
Yeah.
like we're going in, guys, and then you feel it. Sometimes it's even, oh, I feel pressure in my chest because they passed of a heart attack, or
Mhm.
um, that's not psychic to me. It could be, but for me, it's I because I, it's like I'm standing in the room with a person, and I just they're there. I can feel their
Mhm.
presence. It's different from when I know something about you that I'm like I'm feeling into your energy, and that's a different kind of a feeling, right?
Yeah, it is. It is. And I also think that because of our cultural and societal conditioning, we are asking questions. They're not bad questions, like, how do we know this? How can we prove this? But this is also kind of what keeps us stuck and keeps us from exploring things that are tremendously healing. And so, if somebody is receiving healing, can that be enough? Can that be enough validation that this is for them? Do we have to always trace it back to some sort of machinery that can prove something, or some sort of, or a person that holds a detail that can affirm whether or not? I've released that. I mean, there is a very natural need of the mind, the left hemisphere, to prove and be proven. And I've also learned that when my clients say to me, everything changed after this reading, my relationship with this person is completely different now. I feel so much peace. I feel so much love. I'm not going to question anything. There's healing here. And if it's experienced by the people that we're serving, I think that's the point.
Exactly. I think you're right. The only reason there's ever the conversation of proof is that people will challenge you sometimes. And not
Yeah.
that I know, and you probably aren't either, in the business of arguing with anybody. I certainly don't. I know you don't either. But if it's someone that is a friend or they want to know and you're
Mhm.
curious and they're asking, then we do kind of tend to get into that a little bit more. But I think that what you just spoke to is so important that um, we need to learn to trust our intuition.
Mhm.
And I tell my clients, listen, not everything I say is going to be right, but I'm
Mhm.
trusting spirit
Yes.
to let what's meant to happen happen, and to let what's coming out of my mouth help and heal you. And all I know, and like you know, is that the next day or afterwards you get
Mhm.
feedback saying this was more meaningful than you know, or
Yes.
and
Yeah.
in my mind I'm like, was that good? Did I do a good job? Because my
Right.
human is judging myself, and then I'm like, all that I don't, it's not about me, it's not about my ego, it is about,
Mhm.
did they feel healing from it? That's all that matters. And also, did they feel the presence of spirit when we were together?
Mhm. Yeah.
Because it doesn't matter if I feel it, if you're not feeling, if you're not feeling it, if I could make up anything, but
Yeah.
it's an exchange of energy between you, me, and the spirit that we're working with.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed.
So what is your relationship with your mother like now?
It's the best.
Yeah.
She's on the other side. And we are good. We're tight. We're clear. We're light. She communicates with me frequently through birds. Birds were
Mm.
her jam. And literally the week she died, she started to send a male cardinal
I was
to my.
just going to say cardinals. Like as soon as you said birds, I started to see cardinals in my eyes.
Yeah.
But I was waiting for you to finish speaking. I was like,
Yep. That
he's
was
going
her
to say
favorite bird. Yep.
Yeah, I knew it.
And so she would send one to my son's window. And at that time, I had no garden, I had no bird feeder. There was nothing to attract a bird. And yet there he was, like staring at us and coming multiple times a day would come. It would wake my son up at 6 a.m., 5 a.m., just pecking at the window, scratching at the window. It's actually what helped my son move out eventually when he was an adult. He's like, I can't sleep here anymore. I was like, thank you, Mom.
I mean, listen, I've seen cardinals and they've never come up to me. And so
Yeah, it's, I
yeah.
mean, Shannon, I could go to the window and put my finger against it and it would be right there. And it's not that I could touch it, but if I could, I would kind of like stroke the chest and it would stay right there. And my dogs would go crazy barking at it and frothing. And the bird would just look at them like, I mean, I don't know why you all are carrying on. I'm just here as a visitor. So this was my mom's communication. animal, her messenger animal. In fact, when my father was very ill and at the end of his life, I was at his home, which was my parents' home, my childhood home, and I came to visit him, and he complained that there's all these birds on the patio. And I said, "What are you talking about? You have a screened-in patio. How are there, and you never open a door. How are there
Yeah.
any birds?" I look out, and there are like 8 birds inside his closed, screened in patio. So I open all the doors. My daughter and I like get the birds out. We close them. The next day I come to bring him dinner. Those damn birds are back. So finally I went out. This happened multiple days in a row. I went outside and I just said, "Who's here? Who's sending the birds?" And my mom said, "It's me. It's me.
Hmm.
I want to let you know he's close to taking flight." And she said, so she gave me some warning that my dad was nearing his moment. And she said, "And I really like to bother him."
Was that their relationship in this life? Yeah.
I got a kick out of just, playfully annoying him, and he would give a reaction and they would laugh and hug. It was just so sweet. So that night when I was saying goodnight to him, I said, "Dad, I figured out who's sending the birds." He said, "Who?" I said, "Mom." He said, "Tell her to knock it off."
That's so cute.
So this is one of the ways of communicating. They send animal messengers, they might send feathers, they might send coins, they might send all sorts. I mean, there's books and books on this topic of what are messages from spirit, from our loved ones that they can use in this 3D world to get our attention. And for my mom, it's the birds.
Yep, I was going to ask you to share. A lot of people say to me, "I don't have this gift." I always
Mhm.
tell them, "You do."
Yeah,
I did a reading last week, and she's like, "Well, because I don't have." I'm like, "You do." What are you talking
yeah,
about? She's had so many things happen, but also, I think I just tell people you do have it. You just haven't learned to maybe harness it, or maybe you haven't
right,
worked with it. And you may not want to, and you don't have to. But
right.
one of those core tips that you just mentioned is wonderful. So if you start to feel, for example, back in the day, if I felt chills, I would just, oh, guess I got a little chill,
Yeah,
I don't know what that is. Now every time I'll be driving, all of a sudden I feel the
yeah,
chill. I go, "Who's here?"
yeah,
And it immediately is the first name that comes to my head. So I tell
yeah,
people, don't think about it, don't get in your head about it, don't who could it? No. At that moment, I'm feeling something, or I'm seeing a bird pecking at the window. Who's sending this message? And
yeah.
immediately something will come in,
Hmm.
and sometimes it may even come in with a secondary sign. Like I had that happen with a friend, and his last name popped up on a truck right next to me as I was driving.
Hmm.
So for people that think they don't have this ability, what would you say to them?
That just what you
Oh,
said
yeah.
that they do.
Yeah. Anything else? Like anything you wanted to add to that? Other than,
Yeah, no, there's
yeah,
nothing. I mean, I've said this all the time. I say it all the time. I do not believe there's anything unique about me
yeah,
that makes me good at this. I have decided I want to be good at
me
this.
too.
I want to study. I want to learn from the best. I want to practice it. And I want to get to a place where I trust myself enough to offer what I have to
Hmm.
offer. And that if you can do that, that is enough. You don't have to become a professional at anything. Like our guidance is for us, really. You don't have to be under the pressure to do it for someone else. I like to because I do trust now me and my skill set, which I have honed. And I've had enough experience with it to see the massive transformation that it makes in people's lives and on our planet, really. So, yeah, anyone can, and you don't have to. We have such an illness of comparison, right? We compare ourselves because of social media and all of this. So people will look at you, Shannon, and say, "Well, I can't do that." What they mean is, "I can't do it like you
Like you do
do."
it.
And that's the point. You're not supposed to. You're not supposed to channel or do mediumship like Shannon. You're supposed to do it like you, like your own self. And that's what I try to say in my classes. I cannot teach you guys how to channel like me, but I can teach you how to channel like you.
That's
And that's even
beautiful.
better.
That is very important too. I think I had a reading with Jenny Marie, who had her own TV show. Um, was it Mom's a Medium? I always get mixed up, but she's wonderful. It was a show that was on for a bit, a reality show, and when she sat down with me, she's like, "You're a medium," and I'm like, and I hadn't started really. I just started studying it, and I
Hmm.
said, "But I want to do it. I want to be as good as you." And she said, "You are as good as me. It's just, you have to understand that there are things that I can do that just happen to be my whatever my brainwave type, my personality type. That like I'm really good with names, but the
Hmm.
Long Island medium is like I don't need names.
Hmm.
You and I both know the spirits here. They don't give me names because I don't think it's important. To me, it is
Hmm.
because in real life, names are very important to me. It's just something I've always been good at. Names are always
Hmm.
something I remember. So yeah, you're right. It's everyone has their own skill set, and yes, there are people that are more empathic by nature. That's probably why you and I are. I'm guessing I've always been extremely
Hmm.
to the point of as a kid had to be in therapy because I was so sensitive. And so yes, that might equip us to be um, more prone to pursuing it as a career. I think that's the
Yeah,
difference. It doesn't mean that if you're a logical minded person working in corporate America that you don't have the skill. It's just
right.
that we're probably more interested in it,
Yes,
and so
yes.
we were drawn to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I really I credit my mom with my sensitivities or the development of these gifts because she struggled with mental illness when I was a child. And I
Mm.
had to get really good at reading her energy before I entered the house or the room. So I would know like avoid
Yeah.
or approach, right? And this becomes like I don't want to say survival because it wasn't life or death, but is this going to be a thriving experience or am I going to, have some kind of upset from it? And this when it's created in young years, like childhood years, I didn't know it then, but this is a real asset. I can now walk into a space and be like, "Oh, over there is where I'm going to go. That's where the energy feels warm and good and welcoming. And over there, I'm going to observe that and I'm going to keep an arm's distance. And we can practice this. I think it's actually very essential for mental health and
Yeah.
emotional health and well-being to learn how to read energetically. And again, the body will not lie. You can feel constriction in your heart. Your heart will tell you when someone is a safe zone or when someone is not. You can feel it in your gut, sometimes in your shoulders, a tension in your neck. Learn what your signals and signs are. That's also included in channeling, I believe.
Yeah. So a couple of things. I wanted to know. Well, I would love for you to share about what you have going on right now in terms of your projects, workshops, classes, anything that you would like to promote and share about, and then I have another question as well.
Sure.
But I'd love to know all about your services, what kinds of things you're into, what you're
Mhm.
doing generally, and obviously we'll have your website linked below. But I would love to hear about that.
Yeah. Well, for people who are curious to learn how to channel, like the beginning part of it, I have a couple recorded workshops on my website that they can
Amazing.
start right away. I learned to channel using a pendulum and a letter board, and not a Ouija board, let me be clear, but a letter board. I actually have it behind me. And that's how I learned to spell out the names of my guides or the names of my ancestors that were with me and that I could ask questions to. So it was a very exciting experience when the pendulum first starts to move and you're not actually moving it. Oh my gosh, it was mind blowing.
That is so cool.
Yeah, so cool. So I teach a class on the pendulum. I teach a class teaching people how to connect to the natural world, how to connect to their spirit guides, to their higher self, in very simple, practical, pragmatic ways. I do not believe that this has to be complicated. I think it's already been
Hmm.
overcomplicated. It's really just a matter of how do I get quiet? How do I get centered? How do I settle? How do I open? And for me, I use certain pieces of music, certain mantras. I like to use Sanskrit. The language of Sanskrit feels very strong to me. It helps me get into that zone paired with certain melodies. Again, mala beads, these are all ways that I get into that channeling space. So these are the modalities that I often teach. And if you want a private reading, you can schedule that through the website as well. I am also in the process of finishing my book teaching people how to channel.
That's exciting. I was told I have a friend on the other side who was a medium, and he told me, you know that you're going to be channeling. And I was like, no way. I mean, channeling in the way that you do,
Mhm.
which is, I think of channeling the way that he was talking about it is where you are kind of going into the way that he was talking about it is you're going into sort of a trance. It's like free writing or free, you're just letting everything come out. And I have been like, I don't know, I don't know. I'm going to be judging myself the whole time,
Yeah.
and so
Uh,
I think, but it is something that I'd like to explore to only enhance what's already there. Just I may not ever do it. But he also told me I'd be doing platform readings, and I said, no way, I'm not getting up in front of people. And then I found out that's where I thrive the most. So, who
oh, love
knows?
it.
I was like, never, I'm not going to do it. I can't do it. And then found out, oh, it's actually easier, I think. Um,
Yeah.
do you do group readings?
Yeah, I do groups all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do groups all the time. In fact, I that's where I do a lot of my fundraising is I will
Oh,
pick a
cool.
cause that I love. In fact, I have one this week for to benefit the Kabul Small Animal Rescue in Afghanistan.
Oh,
So instead of paying me, all the funds go there, and it's win-win-win, and then
yeah.
I channel for everybody in the group. But what I will say about channeling is there's trance channeling, which
Trance
I do
channeling
not
is what,
do.
yes.
I don't do that. And then there's conscious channeling. That's the zone I stay in. I have full awareness. Nobody comes in here and, does anything. That's my preference, but you get to choose like however you want to channel. I'm aware of what I'm saying. I don't always remember everything because it
Yeah.
comes through very quickly. But I have agency over, I'm the only inhabitant of my body. So that's what I wanted to clarify
Yes.
there. Oh, the other thing I wanted to say that you just mentioned is you said, well, I don't know if I want to do that because I'd probably be constantly judging myself. Shannon, that's how it is. There is an inner critic. We all have it. And even while I'm channeling, she's, nah, 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 nah. Are you
Same.
sure? Is that right? Do you think that makes sense? I'm not sure if that makes sense. Does this sound good? Like constantly. This is just being
That's being
human.
a
This is part of
human.
the personality. So I let her rant. But I have learned I stay in the receptive place
Yeah.
to bring through what is here. And then if she needs some attention after the session, I'll be like, girlfriend, what's up? Do you
Are
are
you
you tired?
okay? Are
What
you
do you
okay?
need? But yeah, we
Absolutely.
don't ever need to do this with the notion that we're only doing it well if we don't have an inner critic. Show me a person who's honest that does not have their inner critic running almost all the time.
So well said. And when I
Mhm.
said that, that is in the beginning when I said, what's the difference between channeling and whatever mediumship is,
Okay.
you're right. That's the differentiation is trance channeling.
Okay.
And that too is what my friend was referring to, where I'm like, I
Okay.
don't know. I don't know. Like, that feels a little intimidating. But what you and I do is
Yeah.
really just it. Yes, the inner critic is there every single time.
Yeah.
Every single time. I debrief with my other medium friend, and we're like, I just frustrated because I had it. I had it right there, and I didn't say it. And then they told me, and I was like, oh, I knew it. Because it's just the brain. It's just the brain.
Yeah.
And I'm a, Virgo perfectionist.
Yeah.
I'm a people pleaser. I just want to give the best thing. And
Of
so that will
course.
happen. And also, then it's not about I always pray every time before the reading that I am not in my ego, that this is not about
Hmm.
me, that
Yeah.
you are using me to channel what this person needs to hear. It is about them. It is
Yes.
about being of service to the spirit world. It is not. I am just the vessel, as we say, and
Yeah.
all I care about is, does this help the person sitting there, and does this help the spirit world? And if I don't, then it's not about. It is not anything about me. And I
Hmm.
think it's so nice to hear other, uh, you know, uh, intuitive channels, mediums say the same thing, that of course we're human, of course
Yeah.
we do, but when you trust, spirit does the work for you, and then you realize this is actually easy.
Yes.
Oh my
Well, that's the
God.
beauty, right? Yeah. Yeah.
And Nikki and I were talking about that, how, I said I used to be afraid to get up and do groups.
Hmm.
But the thing is that it actually is better because then there's no thinking. You have to just go. And that is
Hmm.
how intuition works. It's
Hmm.
you don't have time. You got to get up there. Everyone's staring at you. You just have to just go. And
Yeah.
that is when we do our best work. And I say that to help other people who are wanting to learn this skill and to do it themselves is you just got to go. You just got to
Yeah.
it's like you got to jump right it's like the fool card in the tarot. Just jump off, just do it and trust it and stop getting in your head. And the faster you talk, the less you're going to be thinking. And that's when you're like, "Oh, this is actually easy." So it's
Yeah.
actually easier than it looks, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, there's absolutely, I agree with what you said. And there's this component to channeling or mediumship where we are wildly out of control. We have
Oh,
no choice.
yes.
Like it's not like, well, hold on, let me scan for the thing that makes most sense. We'll go here. And it's not clinical where you can say, look, in this textbook, this is the best therapeutic approach for what you
Yeah.
have. So it's full on trust. And that can feel very scary for the first forever.
For the first forever, and then it gets exciting, and then it gets scary. And just when you think you've got it, you're like, ah, it shifts. I was just sharing on TikTok about how I had this string of amazing readings and group readings, and I was like, I'm taking this big time because now I know Spirit's going to show up, and I never have to doubt again. And I'm positive. I know this is working. And then the next two readings I had a really hard time
Yeah,
connecting, and I'm like, okay, so also we have to know we don't have control over the
absolutely.
process
And
at
that
all.
doesn't have to be anything about you.
Yeah,
There are some who are very open and there are some who are not. And I
exactly.
trust that whatever comes through or doesn't is in service to that person.
I agree. And sometimes the absence of information is the information.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
agree. And I wanted to ask you if there's one thing that you want people to know, anything, what is it?
I want people to know that we can have the world that their hearts imagine as the most beautiful. And if they can imagine that, which they can, everybody can, we know what we want to see for humanity. We know what we want to see for our children, our grandchildren, future generations, and really all life and all species. We must be in service to that. Doesn't have to be big. It's just your way, your act of service to the world that you want to see, that you know is possible. That's how we're going to get there.
That's beautiful. Stephanie, thank you so much for joining us. It is Stephanie Banks, intuitive channel, wonderful human. Thank you so much for joining me today and sharing your insights with everyone. I will have information about how to reach Stephanie, how to work with Stephanie. I know that I am going to be looking into some of those workshops because we can never stop learning. I think we always have to keep on developing, learning, growing as human beings in any profession that you're in. But also just this work excites me. And I know that if you're here listening, it probably excites you too. So thank you again, Stephanie Banks, for being here. You are such a lovely person, and it means the world that you've joined me today.
Thank you so much, Shannon. You're amazing, and I am so grateful you're following your Dharma and sharing so much of this with the world.